They said my son loved me, but when I walked into the garage that morning, the smell of motor oil and polished leather didn't greet me. Nothing did. My husband's pride and joy, a 1967 Mustang he had spent 20 years restoring, every bolt tightened with his own hands, was gone. The floor was bare, the walls echoing like an empty tomb. And then my son's voice, calm, almost rehearsed, sliced through the quiet. "I sold it," he said. I stared at him, trying to breathe, trying to make sense of his words. You what?" "My wife wanted Paris," he shrugged, like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. "Get over it." Over it? 20 years of love, sweat, and sacrifice, gone, for a plane ticket and fancy dinners in a city I had always dreamed of visiting with my late husband. My son couldn't see the value in that. The betrayal burned through me hotter than the Texas sun outside our Houston home. My name is Evelyn Carter. I'm 52 years old, and I've lived most of my life in Houston, Texas. I'm a woman who values loyalty, honesty, and family. Yet here I was, standing in my own garage, feeling like a stranger in my life. My voice shakes even now thinking about it, but I have to tell this story because some things just can't be kept inside. Before we begin, tell me one thing in the comments. Did your grandmother ever share stories like this with you? I still remember sitting beside mine, listening till sleep took over. Let's see how many still remember those days. The morning sunlight hit the empty space where the Mustang used to shine. I could almost see my husband there, wiping the chrome, humming his favorite old Motown records. I remembered how he'd call me over just to show a new detail in the engine, his eyes twinkling with pride. And my son, my own flesh and blood, he had no respect, no consideration, no memory of the man who built this car with his bare hands. "Evelyn," he said again, softer this time, but no gentleness in his tone. "It's just a car. Dad wouldn't want you crying over a car." I laughed, bitter and hollow, a sound I didn't even recognize as my own. "Just a car. That car was your father's legacy, Daniel. Do you understand what you just did?" He shifted uncomfortably, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of guilt, or maybe fear. "I needed to make her happy, Ma. She's been dreaming about Paris forever." My heart ached with more than anger. It was disbelief, sorrow, and confusion tangled together. Was this the boy who once sat on my lap as a toddler, telling me he would always protect what mattered? What happened to that boy? I wanted to scream, to shake him, to make him understand what betrayal felt like, but the words stuck in my throat. Then my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. This is Thomas, the dealership owner. Your husband left something inside the car. You need to come now." Time froze. My head spun. Something left inside? How could there be something left inside a car that wasn't mine anymore? "Wait," I said, gripping the counter. "Inside, what?" I can't explain over the phone. Please, come. It's urgent." I hung up, my hands trembling. Daniel watched me, his expression a mixture of impatience and shame. "It's fine, Ma. Forget it. It's just..." "No," I cut him off. "No. Something is left inside my husband's car. You don't get to dismiss that." As I grabbed my keys and purse, I noticed the Mustang's floor mats, folded neatly, almost untouched, sitting where they had always been. A small detail, but my mind clung to it. My husband had always been meticulous. Every detail mattered. And whatever he left inside the car, it was meant to be found. By me. Daniel rolled his eyes, but I ignored him. Something told me this wasn't just about the car anymore. It was about something deeper, something he never wanted me to know, perhaps something he trusted only his father to leave behind. The drive to the dealership was quiet, suffocating, the kind of silence that screams louder than any argument. My thoughts raced. What could be left inside a sold car? Money? Papers? Jewelry? Or secrets? When I arrived, Thomas, the dealership owner, was waiting outside. His face was grim, and his eyes avoided mine. You need to see this for yourself." He led me around to the back lot, where a sleek black SUV stood. And there, gleaming under the morning sun, was my Mustang. My heart lurched. You got it back," I whispered. Thomas shook his head. No, I didn't. Your son sold it. But when I took it in, I found something in the glove compartment. I tried calling you immediately. I walked closer, the world narrowing to that small glove compartment. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside, a small leather-bound journal sat, worn but pristine. My husband's handwriting danced across the cover, "For Evelyn, if I'm ever gone." I swallowed hard. This is his handwriting. Thomas nodded. I didn't touch a thing. I just thought you should see it before anyone else. The weight of betrayal mixed with the faint glimmer of hope. My son had taken my husband's legacy for a flight to Paris, but whatever was in this journal, maybe, just maybe, it could explain why my husband did what he did in the last years of his life, why he never fully trusted Daniel with the car, why he kept secrets so close. I opened the journal, the leather warm in my hands, and the first words I read made my blood run cold. If you are reading this, Evelyn, there is more to Daniel than you know. And he is about to make the biggest mistake of his life. My heart pounded. My legs felt weak. I looked at Thomas, then at the empty dealership lot, then back at the journal. A storm had begun, and I was standing right in the eye of it. That's when I realized, this wasn't just about a car. This was about my son, my husband, and secrets that could destroy everything I thought I knew. And I had no idea how far this would go, or what I would have to do to stop it. I couldn't stop staring at that journal, Thomas standing quietly behind me like a shadow, as if he knew the storm about to break. My hands shook as I traced the edges, the leather soft under my fingers, almost alive with the weight of my husband's final message. Every fiber in my body screamed, "This is bigger than you think, Evelyn." I turned slowly toward Daniel, who had followed me to the dealership despite his earlier indifference. His arms were crossed, his jaw tight. I wanted to scream, to make him feel every ounce of betrayal he had carved into my heart, but I forced myself to stay calm. Calm, because anger alone would get me nowhere. "Daniel," I said, my voice even but heavy, "you had no right." He rolled his eyes, like I was overreacting, like a car could ever matter more than Paris. "Ma, it's just a car. She wanted this trip, and I wanted to make her happy." I felt my chest tighten. Make her happy? Do you know what this car meant to your father? To me? He hesitated, just for a heartbeat, and I saw it. Maybe guilt, maybe fear, maybe a mixture he didn't understand himself. "Ma, No, Daniel. You don't get to explain this away," I interrupted. "Not today. Not ever. You took something sacred. Something that held 20 years of his life, sweat, and heart. And you sold it like it was nothing. Like I'm nothing." He looked down at his shoes, shuffling nervously. "I didn't think." "You didn't think?" I repeated, my voice shaking. "You never think about anyone but yourself. You never have." For a moment, I almost saw the little boy I used to cradle, the boy who used to tell me, "Mama, I'll always protect what you love." But that boy was gone. The man in front of me was a stranger wearing his skin. Thomas cleared his throat. Maybe you should look inside the journal. It might explain things." I ignored him for a moment, studying Daniel. "Do you even know why Dad loved that car? It wasn't just a hobby, Daniel. It was our story, his story. Every scratch, every polish, every Sunday afternoon spent tinkering, that car held our family history. And you sold it for what? A flight to Paris? A few days of romance?" Daniel's face paled. He opened his mouth, then closed it again, searching for words that weren't coming. I could see the cracks forming, tiny fissures in his confident armor. Finally, I turned back to the journal. I flipped it open slowly, almost reverently. The first pages were filled with my husband's careful handwriting, stories about the car, the restoration, memories of Daniel as a child, and cryptic warnings. Daniel isn't who he seems. He's clever, but reckless. If he ever touches the car without understanding its value, the consequences will be greater than he imagines. I froze. My pulse raced. My son, my own flesh and blood, had already ignored that warning. He had sold the car. And whatever my husband had meant by consequences, I had a sinking feeling they weren't metaphorical. "Evelyn, Thomas's voice brought me back. There's something else. A key. Hidden behind the glove compartment panel. Your husband left instructions for it. He wanted only you to find it. I looked at Daniel, who seemed smaller, weaker, suddenly uncertain. What key? Thomas didn't answer. He handed me a small, brass key, its metal worn from years of careful handling. My fingers closed around it instinctively. I could feel the weight of my husband's presence in this tiny object, and it was almost suffocating. Where's the car now? I asked. My voice was quiet, almost trembling. On the lot, but it's been sold, Thomas admitted. The buyer, he doesn't know what's inside. I felt my stomach drop. I had to find that car. I had to see it, hold it, and find out what my husband left behind. But Daniel. I could hardly look at him. His betrayal had cut too deep, and yet, in the quiet corners of my mind, a seed of doubt grew. Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he hadn't understood what he was selling. I need to see it, I said, my voice firmer now. I need to find that car, Daniel. And I need to know everything Dad left for me. He flinched, like he'd been caught. Ma. I can help. No, I snapped, shaking my head. You've done enough. You've already made your choice. Thomas stepped closer. Evelyn, there's something else. I didn't know if I should tell you yet, but your husband left a note for the dealership. He said, if anything happens to the car, Evelyn will know what to do. My hands tightened around the journal and key. My mind raced with possibilities. What had my husband hidden inside the car that he thought only I could handle? Money. Documents. A clue to a secret he'd never shared. Or something more. I could see Daniel shrinking under my gaze, his bravado dissolving. Ma, please. I didn't mean. You didn't mean, I repeated. You never do. But it's too late for excuses. You've already crossed the line. A sudden thought struck me. What if this wasn't just about betrayal? What if my husband had anticipated this? What if everything, every warning, every journal entry, every hidden key, was part of a plan to test Daniel, or to protect me, or both? Thomas spoke again, softly. I can help you track it. The buyer lives out of town, but there's a way to get the car back, before it's too late. I nodded, though my mind was already moving 100 steps ahead. We have to. Whatever Dad left, it's not just sentimental. It's important. And Daniel, I looked at my son, my voice low and sharp, I swear, if you interfere, I don't know what I'll do. He didn't answer. He just stared, a mix of fear and guilt in his eyes. As we left the dealership, I felt the first prickles of a plan forming. This wasn't just about revenge or getting the car back. It was about uncovering every secret, every betrayal, every hidden piece of my husband's life, and maybe even discovering what my son was truly capable of. The Houston sun beat down on the streets as I drove, Thomas beside me, journal in hand, key in my pocket. I could feel the weight of what was coming. The betrayal, the secrets, the mystery, they were just beginning. And somewhere deep inside, I knew one thing. Nothing would ever be the same again. Because by the time I was done, I would either know the truth, or lose everything. The night was quiet when I got home, but silence never felt so heavy. The house, once full of memories, now felt like a stranger's, echoing with the absence of my husband and the betrayal of my son. I sat at the kitchen table, the journal open in front of me, the key clutched in my hand like a lifeline. Each page I turned felt like walking through a maze my husband had built to test me, or maybe to protect me, from the truths I wasn't ready to face. The entries were strange at first. Stories about the car, about small family moments, but then they turned cryptic. Trust is fragile. Daniel is clever, but he does not see the bigger picture. If he moves without understanding, he will break everything. I had to stop reading for a moment, my hands trembling. Could my son really be that reckless? That ungrateful? I wanted to scream at him, but more than anger, I felt a creeping fear. What had my husband left inside the car that could be so important, so dangerous, that he had to warn me? Thomas had promised to help, and first thing in the morning, we set out to find the buyer. He had tracked down the name through the dealership's records, a man named Victor Mason living just outside Dallas. I felt my heart sink. Dallas wasn't Houston, but it wasn't so far that I couldn't get there quickly. The drive was long, but my mind never stopped racing. I kept thinking about the key, the journal, and Daniel's face that morning. How could a son betray his mother so casually? And how could a man who once cherished family so deeply vanish behind a facade of selfishness? When we arrived, Victor's house was bigger than I expected. A modern two-story with sleek lines, everything polished and perfect. I felt a pang of anger. How dare he enjoy my husband's car while Daniel had treated it like a piece of trash to sell? Thomas knocked on the door, and Victor answered immediately, his eyes flicking over me with curiosity, then landing on the key in my hand. "Can I help you?" he asked politely, though I could see the faint tension in his jaw. "I hope so," I said. "I'm Evelyn Carter. I believe you purchased a car from my son. A 1967 Mustang." Victor's eyes widened slightly, and he motioned us inside. The living room was immaculate, the kind of place that felt like no one really lived there, just existed. "Yes," he said, his voice careful. "I bought it last week. But there was something inside." I held up the key. "Yes. Something very important. Your seller didn't understand its value." Victor's expression changed, a mixture of curiosity and caution. "Well, I haven't opened anything inside the car yet. I just drove it around a little." My heart raced. I wanted to snatch the car key from him, but I reminded myself, "Calm, Evelyn. You have to play this carefully. This isn't just about taking the car back, it's about uncovering what your husband left for you, what Daniel never understood." Thomas spoke quietly. We should inspect it together. There could be instructions, or something he left intentionally for you." Victor hesitated. "I guess that's fine. I mean, it's just. I didn't know what was inside. I just bought it because it's a classic." I nodded, forcing my voice to stay steady. "That's all that matters. We need to see what's inside now." When we reached the Mustang, my heart leapt. It was exactly as I remembered, polished, gleaming, almost taunting me with its perfection. My hands shook as I opened the door, the familiar leather smell filling my senses, memories flooding in with every inch of the car I touched. The glove compartment was empty except for a small envelope. I fumbled with it, and inside was a single, folded letter addressed to me in my husband's handwriting. "Evelyn, if you are reading this, you are closer than you think. But trust no one completely. Not Daniel. Not even those who seem kind. Everything you believe may be a lie. Look beyond the obvious, and you will find what you seek." I froze, the words burning into my chest. Trust no one completely. Not Daniel. Not even those who seem kind. I glanced at Thomas, then at Victor. My mind raced. Was this a warning? Or a test? Victor shifted uncomfortably. "Is everything okay?" I straightened, trying to mask my panic. "Everything's fine. I just need a moment." Thomas leaned closer, whispering, Maybe we should check the trunk next. He might have hidden something there, too." I nodded, gripping the journal tightly. This was more than just a car now. This was a trail, a puzzle my husband had left for me, and every step I took brought me closer to the truth, and closer to the betrayal I feared might go deeper than Daniel. I opened the trunk, heart pounding. There, tucked behind the spare tire, was a small, locked box. My fingers trembled as I inserted the key, turning it slowly. Inside, papers. Documents. A collection of letters and photographs that I didn't recognize immediately. But one photo caught my eye. It was Daniel. Not as a child, not as a teenager, but an adult, standing with a woman I didn't know. They were laughing, holding hands, and behind them, a cityscape that looked remarkably like Paris. I swallowed hard. Daniel had lied. He hadn't just sold the car on impulse. This had been planned. His wife, the Paris trip, this was deliberate. And now, my husband's words from the journal rang louder than ever. Daniel is clever, but reckless. If he moves without understanding. If I was going to find out what else my husband left, and what Daniel had really done, I had to keep going. I had to follow the trail he left, and I had to be smarter than my son. Then, almost as if timed to perfection, a knock came at the door. Victor's eyes flicked to the front. I wasn't expecting anyone. I felt my pulse spike. Something about the timing didn't sit right. My husband had warned me about trust. And now, it seemed, someone, or something, was about to test me further. Before I could speak, Thomas whispered, maybe we need to be careful. Whoever's coming might know about the car, or the box. I nodded, gripping the journal and key tightly. My husband had left me a map of Betrayal, and I had no choice but to follow it, step by step. If you were in my place, what would you have done? Sometimes, one small choice changes everything. Write your answer below. I really want to know how you'd decide. I moved toward the door, heart pounding. Whoever was out there, they were about to set the next part of this storm in motion. And I had to be ready. The knock at Victor's door never came again. When I finally opened it, there was nothing, just the wind rustling through the trees, the quiet of a suburban Dallas morning. I didn't know whether to feel relief or dread, but instinct told me to trust my gut. My husband had left instructions for me, and now, more than ever, I understood why he had warned, trust no one completely. Thomas and I carefully gathered the box, the journal, and the envelope, carrying them to the back of Victor's driveway. The Mustang gleamed in the sunlight, untouched but alive with the weight of secrets. I kneeled beside it, flipping open the box again. Inside were letters, photographs, and folded documents that seemed innocuous at first glance. But the more I looked, the more they seemed like pieces of a puzzle my husband had scattered, leaving it to me to put together. The letters were from different people, business contacts, distant family friends, even lawyers. But one thing was clear, my husband had been hiding something. Something important. And Daniel. I realized with a jolt. Daniel had no idea what he was selling. I opened one letter carefully. It was from a lawyer in New Orleans, addressed to my husband, postmarked years ago. If anything happens to the Mustang, ensure that only Evelyn can access the contents. It is vital she understands the full context before anyone else. I felt a chill. My husband had gone to extraordinary lengths to protect me. And now, because of Daniel, someone else had nearly taken it from me. I glanced at the journal. Daniel is clever, but reckless. He doesn't see the bigger picture. I thought about that photo again. Daniel and his wife, smiling in front of the Eiffel Tower. This had been premeditated. He hadn't just wanted Paris, he had wanted to manipulate me, to take what belonged to my husband for his own ends. Thomas spoke softly, breaking the silence. There's more. I tried to call the dealership several times yesterday. They said the buyer was planning to take the car to an auction soon. My pulse spiked. Auction? That meant thousands of strangers, anyone, could claim what my husband had treasured most. We can't wait, I said firmly. We have to act now. We drove back to Houston immediately, my mind racing. Every red light, every turn, I thought about Daniel, about the betrayal, and about the mysterious contents of the box. But even as anger burned inside me, a quiet fear settled. What if my husband had left something more, dangerous, something that could hurt not just Daniel but me too? By the time we got home, I had a plan. I spread out the photographs and letters on the dining table. There were images of my husband in his younger days, images of Daniel as a toddler, letters about car restorations, and a series of maps with tiny markings I didn't understand at first. Thomas leaned over. What do you think those markings mean? I squinted. Some were addresses, some looked like garages, some, like codes. Codes? My heart raced. My husband had been meticulous, hiding not just memories but clues, secrets hidden in plain sight. And then I realized something terrifying. Daniel had probably overlooked everything. He had seen the Mustang as a possession, not as a vault of secrets. I felt my stomach twist. He had no idea what he'd unleashed. Later that evening, Daniel called. His voice was tentative, almost pleading. Ma, I just wanted to say. I didn't mean to hurt you. I thought it would be okay. I can fix it. I gritted my teeth. Daniel, do you understand what you've done? Do you even know what's inside that car? I don't know, he admitted. His voice cracked. It was just. I didn't think it mattered. I took a deep breath, my anger simmering beneath the surface. You don't understand. Nothing about this matters until you learn respect, Daniel. Until you understand the weight of the past, the love and effort of those who came before you. And maybe then you'll understand your father's warnings. He was silent after that, and I felt a flicker of something else, fear, perhaps. I knew Daniel well enough to know that even the smallest fear could drive him to reckless choices. I returned to the table, poring over the journal again. That's when I noticed something I hadn't seen before, a series of numbers, scribbled in the margins, almost like a code. My husband had been leaving instructions, hidden within stories, letters, photographs, an intricate map leading me to something he deemed essential. My mind spun. Could Daniel have sold something that was more than just a car? Could he have unknowingly taken a key to a deeper secret my husband had spent years protecting? Thomas looked at me, concern etched across his face. Maybe this is bigger than we thought. Maybe Daniel's actions set something in motion we don't fully understand yet. I nodded silently. That thought terrified me more than anything else. And yet, a part of me felt alive, invigorated. This was no longer just about revenge or anger, it was about uncovering the truth, protecting my family's legacy, and understanding the man my husband had been, and the son I thought I knew. The next morning, I called a private investigator I had known years ago, someone my husband trusted, someone meticulous and discreet. I need you to track a car. A 1967 Mustang, recently sold, possibly going to auction. I need every detail, where it is, who has it, and what's inside. The investigator hesitated. Are you sure? This could get complicated. I don't care, I said. I need the truth. As I hung up, I turned to the journal again. My husband had left breadcrumbs, and now it was up to me to follow them. Every line, every word, every photograph, each was a step closer to understanding not just Daniel's betrayal, but the full extent of the secrets he had tried to bury. Hours later, the investigator called back. The car has moved. Out of state. Heading to an estate sale in Baton Rouge. The buyer didn't know what he was taking, but it's clear someone wanted this car gone quickly. Baton Rouge. My mind raced with possibilities. Whoever had the car now, they were in the dark, just like Daniel. And yet, my husband's warnings made me pause. This wasn't just about reclaiming a car. This was about unraveling a carefully hidden web, a web that could change everything I thought I knew about my family, and about Daniel. I closed the journal, my hands shaking slightly. The storm had begun, and I could feel the weight of what was coming. My husband's secrets, Daniel's betrayal, and the mysterious contents of that Mustang were all converging, and I had no choice but to face them head-on. Because by the time I reached Baton Rouge, I knew one thing: nothing would ever be simple again. Baton Rouge felt hotter than Houston ever had, the kind of summer heat that made every step sticky and heavy. But the air didn't slow me down. I had one goal: find that car, open what my husband had left for me, and finally understand why he had trusted me to navigate a maze Daniel had so carelessly destroyed. Thomas drove, and I sat in the passenger seat, journal in my lap, key in my pocket, mind spinning. I kept thinking about that photograph, the one of Daniel and his wife, laughing in front of the Eiffel Tower. That smile, so innocent to them, now burned in my memory as proof of deception. My son had lied, planned, and manipulated. But I was done standing still. The investigator had tracked the car to an estate sale on the outskirts of Baton Rouge. From the photos sent to my phone, it looked like the Mustang was parked among dozens of other classic cars. The estate was massive, an old plantation home converted into a private collector's sale, the kind that catered to the wealthy and the reckless. We arrived just as the auction was about to begin. I could feel my pulse in my throat. My husband had left a trail, and now I had to follow it carefully. The key was in my pocket, and the journal, filled with warnings, instructions, and half-truths, was my map. Inside, the auction room smelled of polished leather and motor oil. The cars gleamed under bright lights, each one screaming wealth and history. And there, at the far end, was my Mustang. My chest tightened. It looked beautiful, untouched by Daniel's carelessness, still gleaming as my husband had left it. I moved toward it, every instinct screaming urgency. The auctioneer, a tall man with a booming voice, was listing the next set of cars. And here we have Lot 32, 1967 Ford Mustang, restored to perfection. I felt my fingers brush against the key in my pocket. My husband's handwriting, his careful warnings, every clue, it all led to this moment. Thomas leaned close. Now's your chance. Whoever owns it, we need to move fast. I nodded. I couldn't wait any longer. Approaching the car, I found the small envelope I had seen before in Victor's possession. But there was something new, a second, smaller key taped beneath the driver's seat, hidden meticulously, almost like my husband had known Daniel wouldn't look there. I felt my heart leap. The small box, the key, the letters, the journal, they weren't just instructions. They were a test. And now, after 20 years, I had passed the first step. I knelt beside the car and used the smaller key on the glove compartment. It opened smoothly, revealing a hidden compartment I hadn't noticed before. Inside was a flash drive, carefully wrapped in soft leather. My hands trembled as I picked it up. I turned to Thomas. This is it. My husband's final secret. Thomas nodded solemnly. Be careful. Whoever gets this first controls the truth. I slipped the flash drive into my purse and pulled out the journal. Flipping through the pages, I found one last note, barely legible. Evelyn, you now hold the key. What Daniel thought he could destroy, he cannot. The truth, the inheritance, and the justice of this family, only you can restore it. I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Relief that I had finally uncovered the first layer of my husband's secrets, and dread at what Daniel might do if he realized how far he had been outmaneuvered. And then, I saw him. Daniel. Standing at the back of the auction room, his face pale, eyes darting between me and the car. He hadn't expected me to follow, hadn't anticipated my determination. He froze when our eyes met, the mask of confidence he usually wore completely gone. I clenched my jaw. You thought this would be easy, didn't you? I said quietly. You thought I wouldn't notice. You thought I'd let it go. He swallowed hard. Ma. I didn't know. I didn't. I thought it was just a car. You thought wrong. I cut him off sharply. This isn't about a car anymore. This is about what it represents, everything your father built, everything he trusted me to protect. And you almost destroyed it. I watched as his eyes flicked nervously to the flash drive in my purse. For the first time, I saw genuine fear. The same boy who once told me he would protect me had become a man who underestimated the woman he called his mother. Thomas stepped beside me, whispering, do you want to confront him here? I shook my head. Not here. Not yet. I needed to understand everything first. The contents of the flash drive, the full extent of Daniel's betrayal, and any secrets my husband had hidden. Confrontation could wait. Strategy couldn't. I turned back to the Mustang, resting my hand on the hood. The car was more than a vehicle, it was a vessel of history, of trust, and of lessons my husband had left behind. And now, I had the first major piece of the puzzle. As we left the estate, the sun dipping behind the Louisiana trees, I felt the weight of the journey ahead. Daniel's betrayal, my husband's secrets, the hidden flash drive, it was only the beginning. There were still letters to read, photographs to analyze, and the full truth to uncover. And somewhere deep inside, I knew one thing. Once I unlocked the contents of this flash drive, nothing would ever be the same. Because the first major reveal wasn't just about the car, it was about my husband's legacy, Daniel's deception, and the hidden truths that would test every bond in our family. Houston had never felt heavier than it did that evening. I drove home slowly, the journal on my lap, the flash drive burning like a secret fire in my purse. Every traffic light, every passing street corner, reminded me of the betrayal that had infiltrated my family. Daniel. My own son. I had raised him, loved him, guided him. And yet, he had betrayed me in the cruelest, most thoughtless way possible. When I got home, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Daniel was sitting in the living room, nursing a beer, trying, poorly, to look casual. But I could see it in his eyes. Guilt, fear, shame. The kind of fear a child feels when he realizes he's been caught in a lie far bigger than himself. I slammed the door behind me. The sound echoed through the house, making him flinch. "Daniel," I said, voice steady but low. "We need to talk." He straightened, trying to appear calm. "Ma. Look, I know I messed up." "Messed up?" I cut him off sharply. "You sold it. My husband's Mustang. 20 years of his life, gone, for a flight to Paris. You thought it was nothing. You thought I'd let it go. You thought I'd never find out. You thought wrong." He opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. "Ma. I didn't think it mattered. I wanted to make her happy." "Make her happy?" I echoed incredulously, pacing across the room. "You think happiness is worth betrayal? You think a car, built with blood, sweat, and love, can be replaced with a plane ticket? With a week in Paris?" He flinched, but I didn't stop. My voice rose, fueled by years of suppressed anger, disappointment, and sorrow. "Do you understand what this car meant? It was your father's legacy. He poured his soul into it, and you treated it like it was nothing." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "Ma. I didn't know. I didn't realize." "You didn't realize," I shouted, the sound bouncing off the walls. "You never realize anything until it's too late. You never think. Not about me, not about your father, not about what matters." For a moment, he looked like a frightened child. And in that moment, I saw the truth. Daniel's betrayal wasn't just selfishness, it was ignorance, a reckless disregard that stemmed from a lack of understanding, a failure to grasp the weight of legacy and trust. I sat down heavily, trying to catch my breath. The anger was still there, but beneath it was something darker, fear, sorrow, and a gnawing realization. My husband had left instructions for me because he knew Daniel couldn't be trusted. He had left warnings, letters, and that flash drive because he anticipated this moment. And now, the consequences were mine to manage. I opened the journal, flipping through the pages I had memorized. "Daniel is clever, but reckless. If he moves without understanding, he will break everything." I felt it. The weight of that statement pressed down on me like a physical force. Daniel had broken everything. Not just the car, not just trust, but the delicate balance my husband had spent decades maintaining. And now it was my responsibility to restore it. Daniel spoke softly, almost pleading. "Ma, please. I can fix this. I'll do anything." I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw a boy who had grown into a man unprepared for the world he thought he controlled. A boy who had underestimated his father, who had underestimated me. And yet, beneath the anger, a strange resolve settled. I couldn't let this betrayal define us, not completely. I had to understand it, contain it, and, if possible, use it to restore what had been lost. "Daniel," I said quietly, my voice firm, "you need to understand something. This isn't just about a car. It's about respect, legacy, and consequences. And right now, you are on probation. Every move you make will be measured against what you've destroyed." His face fell. I understand, Ma. I'm sorry. Truly. "Sorry doesn't fix this," I said. "You think Paris, you think happiness, you think small pleasures can outweigh decades of sacrifice. You're wrong. And you'll see that soon." Then I pulled out the flash drive. Daniel's eyes widened. "Ma, what's that?" "This," I said, holding it up, "is your father's final lesson. He left it for me, not you. He knew you'd act recklessly, and now I have the power to restore what was lost, or reveal what you tried to hide." His hands shook slightly. "Ma, please, don't." I shook my head. "No, Daniel. This is bigger than fear. This is about truth. And right now, the truth is mine to control." I sat down at the kitchen table, placing the flash drive in front of me. "Tomorrow," I said, "we begin uncovering everything your father left. Every secret, every hidden truth, every warning. And you watch and learn. Because this isn't just about betrayal. It's about understanding what it means to honor someone's legacy. He nodded, silent now, the weight of his actions finally settling on his shoulders. I opened the journal again, turning to a page I had overlooked before. My husband had written, "Evelyn, the strongest legacy is not the car, not the memories, it is knowing who to trust and who to forgive. Only you can protect both." I felt the weight of that truth, heavier than the anger, heavier than the betrayal. My husband had anticipated the pain, the recklessness, and had left me the tools to navigate it. And in that moment, I realized, the flash drive, the journal, the letters, even Daniel's mistakes, they were all part of a plan. A plan to teach, to protect, and, ultimately, to prepare me for what was coming next. Because the deeper truths, the final revelations, were still ahead. And by the time I uncovered them, nothing, and no one, would ever be the same. The next morning, Houston's sun was relentless, but it didn't touch the storm inside me. I had a plan, a purpose, and a flash drive full of secrets that Daniel never should have seen. But the deeper truth, the one my husband had left hidden, was still out there, waiting for me to uncover it. Thomas had already mapped out a route to Baton Rouge. The Mustang had been moved again, this time to an estate sale in Lafayette. Whoever had bought it, Victor, Daniel's wife, or some anonymous collector, they hadn't realized what was hidden inside. And if I didn't act fast, the truth could vanish forever. Daniel rode silently beside me, his face pale and drawn. He hadn't protested, hadn't tried to argue. I could feel his fear, and yet, I also sensed a stubborn spark of defiance. My son. Clever. Reckless. But now, he was going to watch as I took control. We arrived in Lafayette just as the sun was climbing high. The estate was smaller than the Baton Rouge mansion, more private, more secluded. The driveway was lined with hedges, and I knew immediately that whoever owned the car didn't expect visitors. We parked a block away, Thomas and I moving cautiously. Daniel stayed behind the car, silent, but I could see his anxiety. He had no idea what I was about to uncover, or how far my husband had planned ahead. Inside the estate, I immediately spotted it. The Mustang gleamed in the sunlight, untouched, pristine. But there was movement nearby, two men inspecting other classic cars, their attention drawn to a clipboard. One of them glanced toward the Mustang briefly, but then returned to his task. I felt my pulse quicken. Whoever was here had no idea what my husband had left, no idea that the Mustang contained the first piece of a puzzle Daniel hadn't even imagined. Thomas whispered, "We need to be careful. Watch your surroundings." I nodded. Cautious, calculated, aware. I had learned from Daniel's recklessness. He had sold the car without thinking. I wouldn't make the same mistake. I approached the Mustang slowly, my hand brushing over the polished hood. Memories flooded back, Sunday afternoons with my husband, watching him polish every inch, listening to his stories, learning the language of the car. And now, the car was more than metal and leather, it was a vault of truth. Daniel trailed behind, shifting nervously. "Ma, maybe we shouldn't." "I don't know, maybe we should wait." I turned to him, eyes sharp. "Daniel, sometimes, waiting means losing everything. You learned that the hard way. Watch and learn." I knelt beside the driver's seat, using the smaller key to open the hidden compartment. The flash drive gleamed in my hand. But there was something else, another envelope, smaller, almost hidden under the driver's seat. I carefully lifted it, unfolding the paper inside. It was a letter, addressed to me in my husband's familiar handwriting. "Evelyn, if you are reading this, know that trust is fragile. Not everyone who smiles at you is a friend. Not everyone who offers help is honest. The truth may shock you, but you are ready. Follow the instructions carefully." My pulse spiked. Instructions. Secrets. Warnings. Everything my husband had prepared was leading me here. And I realized, for the first time, the depth of his foresight. I glanced at Daniel. He looked guilty, fearful, and yet there was curiosity in his eyes, the same curiosity that had driven him to betray me. He had no idea how deep this went. Then, movement outside the hedge caught my attention. A black SUV had parked quietly, and a man in a dark suit stepped out. My stomach tightened. This wasn't just about reclaiming the car anymore. Someone else was involved, someone who might know about the Mustang, about the hidden contents. Thomas whispered, That's trouble." I nodded, gripping the journal tightly. "I know. But we move forward." I stood, walking toward the SUV, the letter in one hand, the flash drive in the other. The man's eyes locked on me. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. But I could feel the tension crackling in the air. Daniel stayed behind, whispering, "Ma, who is that?" "I don't know yet," I said. "But they're going to find out that I do." The man stepped closer. "Ms. Carter." His voice was smooth, controlled. "I believe you have something that belongs to others. Something very important." I kept my voice calm, measured. "And you are, let's just say, a friend. Someone who wants to make sure nothing gets lost or stolen. That Mustang, it's not just a car. It's connected to people who will do anything to get what's inside." I stiffened. Everything my husband had warned me about, the trust, the warnings, the letters, came rushing back. He had known. He had known someone would come. And he had prepared me for this. "Then I hope you understand," I said, lifting the flash drive, "that I control what happens next. I decide who sees this, and when. Not Daniel. Not you. Me." The man's eyes flicked to Daniel, then back to me. "Very well, Ms. Carter. But remember, knowledge has a price. Sometimes, finding the truth can destroy more than it reveals." I nodded, silently agreeing. That was a risk I was willing to take. Thomas stepped forward. Maybe we should get the car to a safer location. Move fast, before anyone else shows up." I agreed. We carefully prepared the Mustang for transport, ensuring nothing was left behind. Daniel watched silently, the first glimmer of real understanding in his eyes. He had underestimated me, underestimated the lengths my husband had gone to protect our family, and underestimated what it meant to face the consequences of his betrayal. As we drove away from the estate, the black SUV following at a distance, I felt the thrill of control, the weight of responsibility, and the lingering fear of what else was hidden in that flash drive. My husband had prepared me for this, for everything: Daniel's recklessness, betrayal, outside threats. And now, I had the tools, the knowledge, and the determination to uncover the full truth. Because in the end, this wasn't just about a car. It was about legacy, trust, betrayal, and the power to finally set things right. The sun was dipping low over Houston, casting long shadows across the driveway as we pulled into my garage. The Mustang sat in its place like a sentinel, gleaming, untouched, and yet filled with secrets that had shaped the last few weeks of my life. I stepped out of the car, feeling the weight of everything: the betrayal, the lies, the hidden truths, and the love that had once seemed simple but was now so complicated. Thomas had parked behind me, giving me space. Daniel lingered by the Mustang, silent, his face pale. I didn't look at him yet. I needed a moment to gather the strength I had drawn from my husband's letters, his journal, and the flash drive. Inside the house, I cleared the dining table. The flash drive went in the middle, surrounded by the letters, the photographs, and the journal. It was time. Time to see everything, to understand everything, and to finally take control. I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. Files opened, one after the other: photographs, receipts, old correspondence, and, what caught my breath, legal documents. My husband had left everything meticulously organized. The car wasn't just a classic Mustang. It was a repository of his estate, his business dealings, and secrets that some people would have killed to obtain. One folder stood out, a video message, labeled simply, "Evelyn, the truth." I clicked it, and his face appeared on the screen, older, wise, warm, and undeniably present despite the years that had passed since his death. "Evelyn," he began, voice calm and steady, "if you're watching this, it means Daniel acted recklessly, and you are now faced with the consequences of choices he never fully understood. The Mustang, what he sold, wasn't just a car. It held documents, photographs, and keys to matters that were important to our family, to our legacy. Your father's work, your mother's memory, and the life we built together are all tied to what you now hold. Trust is fragile, my love. Betrayal is dangerous, but so is ignorance. Daniel did not see the bigger picture. He never would have. That's why I left everything for you. You are the only one who can restore balance, who can protect what is right, and who can make sure the mistakes of the past do not continue into the future. Remember, Evelyn, power is not in taking, but in understanding. Justice is not in revenge, but in seeing clearly, acting wisely, and protecting those you love. I am leaving this to you because I trust you. You are ready. The video ended, and silence filled the room. I sat back, my chest tight, tears stinging my eyes. My husband had anticipated everything, Daniel's betrayal, the outside threats, even the fear I felt now. And he had trusted me to navigate it. Daniel stepped forward, voice small. Ma. I didn't know any of this. I didn't know it meant all that. I turned to him, heart heavy but firm. Now you know. And now you understand. This wasn't just a car, Daniel. It was a responsibility. And responsibility isn't optional. He nodded slowly, swallowing hard. I understand, Ma. I really do. I looked at him, really looked at him, the boy who had betrayed me, the man who was finally learning. Then listen carefully, I said. We will go through everything together. Every document, every photograph, every secret. You will understand the weight of what you almost lost. And maybe, just maybe, you'll start making choices that honor this family instead of destroying it. Thomas leaned back in his chair, smiling faintly. You really are in control now. This is all you. I nodded, feeling a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. The storm had passed, but the work had only begun. Daniel would learn. I would ensure that. And the legacy my husband had left me, carefully hidden, deeply protected, would survive. I pulled the journal close and ran my fingers over the familiar handwriting. Trust no one completely. Daniel is clever, but reckless. Evelyn, you are ready. I realized, for the first time, that the flash drive, the letters, and even the car itself weren't just about material things. They were lessons in trust, betrayal, family, and wisdom. And through all the fear, anger, and heartbreak, I had learned them. Daniel knelt by the Mustang, looking at the car with a new respect, almost reverence. Ma. I'm sorry, he said again, voice barely audible. I didn't know. I didn't understand. I'll do better. I reached out, placing a hand on his shoulder. I know you will, Daniel. And I will help you. But understand this, you've been given a second chance. Don't waste it. The room felt lighter somehow, the shadows of betrayal beginning to lift. But I knew this wasn't the end. There would always be memories, lessons, and the echoes of secrets we hadn't uncovered. My husband's voice, though gone from this world, still guided me. And in that, I found peace. I stood, looking at the Mustang, at Daniel, and at Thomas. This family, our family, we're not perfect. But we are resilient. And we will protect what matters, no matter the cost. Daniel nodded, and for the first time in weeks, I saw hope in his eyes. Hope that he could change, that he could learn, and that the mistakes he had made would become the lessons he needed to grow. I turned to the camera, or maybe just to myself, reflecting out loud. Life will test you, betray you, and hurt you in ways you never expect. But it's how you respond that matters. You can choose anger, revenge, or you can choose understanding, resilience, and wisdom. I chose the latter. And it made all the difference. The Mustang gleamed in the evening sun, a symbol of love, loss, legacy, and survival. And as I closed the laptop, I knew that while some mysteries would remain, some wounds would never fully heal, and some questions would linger, we had survived, we had learned, and we had found our way. If you're listening right now, please like, subscribe, and share, and drop your birth year in the comments. If we're the same age, I've got a little surprise waiting for you there. Remember, it's never too late to reclaim your power, your legacy, and your family's truth. The story was over, but the lessons would echo forever. Betrayal had tested me. Secrets had challenged me. And in the end, I had reclaimed what was mine, not just the Mustang, not just the flash drive, but the wisdom, resilience, and strength my husband had always known I possessed.